Well, hi there, everyone. Episode 54, a little bit different this week, middle of the week. We are broadcasting this, of course, only be released on Friday. But yeah, busy week for us. Nevertheless, 2 shows a week. That's the commitment we made to the viewers. So that's what we're doing. Good evening, Ryan Parrock and Brett Mark Preston.
Hey, guys.
How's it, guys? How's it going?
So, yeah, busy week for us. Obviously, we had a very successful show last night. It was with ex-colleague of ours, Mark Mason, on Bryan Air Live. I'm really starting to enjoy the whole Tuesday night whiskey club. We've sort of started there. It's working nicely, but it's given us a sort of a new angle, because the working together, the collaborating, certainly is something that is not going to stop here. It's important to me personally, and something we're certainly going to carry on with. So I'm really enjoying that side of things. And we'll chat about the collaboration and working together a bit later on. But let's start off in a different area this week, guys. We did touch on India last week. There's a lot going on in India. Most of it bad, some of it a little bit better this week. But through Samero, we've got a lot of Indian friends and pilots that have come in and out of the sim center. So our thoughts and prayers really do go out to everyone in India at the moment, particularly on the aviation side and aviation circles. They have been hit by one of the worst humanitarian crises ever in the region, and them dealing with this this wave in India and the strain that they have has put a massive dent in Indian aviation. We were reporting on how well India was doing in that segment not so long ago. We did an Indian aviation special, and here we are talking about how devastating the impact has been. And yeah, not that we've got tons and tons of news to report about. There's little bits and pieces here and there, but I think if we stand for anything on this podcast, it's been trying to relay support for the aviation industry, and particularly the aviation personnel that are affected. So a lot of job losses going on there. A lot of people are fighting to keep their existing jobs, I suppose we could say. They've just had there's been an advisory there. There's been a cyclone there that's gone and affected things this past week. Qatar and Emirates doing their best to fly oxygen into the country, but it's a sad state of affairs, and it to me it just highlights how fickle the aviation industry is right now. A few months ago, things are looking solid, and here we are. Not all doom and gloom. Brett, I think you've got a few positive stories coming out of there. You can jump in there now and give us, because we need some positivity for that region. It's a vital area. South Asia aviation, it's an upcoming industry, and they got to survive. They got to get through this. Of course they will, but when that happens, we sooner rather than later. If you compare it to what's going on in the States right now, America obviously looking great. A lot of vaccines have happened. People are traveling. Obviously, people have changed the way they travel. Business travels on the down because people have made a new plan, a new way of doing business. But there's a massive demand right now for family travel, people getting around the world to go and see families. But let's stick with India right now. Thoughts and prayers with all the Indian aviation personnel out there. Brett, give us some positive news out of India.
Well, yeah, actually, surprisingly enough, if you look deep enough, you can see the positives. And comparing India to the States is comparing chalk and cheese. The States per capita head, the wealth levels are just skyrocket compared to to the Indians. With 1 billion people or so, you see how majority of the Indian population live in shanties or whatever it is, but they have such pride in them. But everyone lives on top of each other in those areas. So you can imagine something like this, this third wave spreading through, a different variant spreading through, extremely difficult to stop. So yeah, it's a very different environment. But when you look at it, I know we spoke about Qantas not repatriating and basically blocking, and the UK red listing India, which we understand. They want to protect one another. But Air Canada is flying in oxygen and PPE and ventilators. We've got Asiana flying the A380 for repatriation. So we're seeing so many airlines coming in. Lufthansa's doing the same. Coming in to support and assist. So the humanitarian side of it is just I don't know. You got to get a great feeling on that they're prepared to do that. Antonov Airlines as well, flying in tons and tons of oxygen that can be used in the hospitals, and that way they just actually they have nothing. So you've got that human spirit coming through, which I love to see, and I always pick up on that. But the dichotomy on this is that in the month of March, Delhi had a 5.6% increase of passengers. Hyderabad. Yeah, good luck with that one. They had a 10%. They had a 10% growth in passengers coming through, and there's a variety of airports in India where the passengers numbers are just increasing. So it's kind of weird that is happening with this whole third wave. So I'm not 100% sure how that all fits in, but the fact is there's movement. There is this third wave, but at the same time, a large number of airlines are coming in and supporting. Okay, British Airways a little bit different. Nobody's arriving for their scheduled work flights to India. The crew, the cabin crew are all, well, not all of them, but a lot of them are not even arriving for those flights. And the CEO of British Air was saying, guys, please come. You got to work. We got to do these flights, but then they're not doing it. Obviously, it's fair. There's no doubt about it. But yeah, there's a big mix there, but there's a lot of positivity, and hopefully, Indian, everyone in India, people that we know, that they're just safe, and hopefully this wave passes pretty quickly.
Yeah, shucks, man. It really is sad to see what's going on that side of the world. I mean, like you just said earlier, Brian, just a few short months ago, we were talking about how well they were doing, and now all of a sudden everything's done a 180. Yeah, really sad, but I'm hoping that things do recover there as fast as possible. A lot of those airlines are also facing the challenges because they also weren't as financially strong to begin with as well. A lot of them were in the same state as our state-owned airlines already to begin with, so they're facing the exact same challenges. I also came across a story earlier this week where there was a 737 crew that flew from, I think it was Delhi to Croatia, and there was some sort of a miscommunication in their vaccine, was it, I forget the word now. They didn't have the correct vaccine or something like that, and they had to spend over 22 hours in the airplane on the tarmac. Shucks, that couldn't have been too comfortable. But yeah, hopefully there's a recovery coming their way sooner than later.
Yeah, chatting of vaccines there, Delta, they may block unvaccinated crew from doing any international flights. That's not official yet. It's not a hard policy, but that's what they're aiming for in the rostering department. So if you haven't had the vaccine, you don't fly international. And all new employees to the airline will be required to show they've had the vaccine. So vaccines becoming a big part of life. And I mentioned America there at the beginning, and Brett, 100% correct. You cannot compare aviation in America to aviation in India. Totally totally different markets. However, the American market, quite an interesting one to watch. A website that I follow, the Air Current, they release a lot of articles and data-based articles. So they actually release data on a monthly basis, and it takes a while to go through the stuff, but it's quite remarkable to see the demand for travel in the States is there. It's very much there. And as these vaccines have happened, that demand has gone up. What's interesting is it's who the demand is from that has changed. And if you look at countries that aren't going to be able to, even us here in South Africa, I mean, it's not as if vaccinations have been rolled out at such a rate that it's even had a pinprick effect on South African aviation, because it hasn't. But in countries where it is having an effect, and you can look at that curve, and it's certainly recovering in the right direction. Emirates, let's go to them next. Doing things a bit backwards tonight. We normally start with South Africa, but nice to change things up a bit. They're quite bullish about their recovery. They're looking at 70% capacity back by their winter there in the UAE. They're banking on the Dubai Expo, vaccinations, and relaxed restrictions on international travel to get that demand back. And interestingly enough, their marketing guy, he's talking about, this demand for family travel. There's a massive, massive demand around the world now where people are saying, well, look, it's been long enough, and people need to get around the world to go and see mothers and fathers, brothers, daughters, all that sort of stuff, because everyone has been apart for so long. So that demand for family travel right now is massive. And right now, I mean, they're operating every single 777 they've got, 151 of them. There's an additional 30 to 40 A380s over the summer that they're looking at bringing back into service. That's obviously dependent on the recovery. But very good news out of Emirates there. And one can only hope, or be very optimistic, that by the end of the year, maybe we're looking at much more of a normal type of aviation landscape to what we've become used to.
Yep. I see in the EU, Bryan, that they are, I think this Friday, they're making a decision that all 27 block countries are going to open up to the rest of the world completely and utterly, as long as you are vaccinated. And they're doing that specifically. Obviously, summer's on its way. You've got millions of families that haven't seen one another. So they're taking a bold step there to open up the whole of the European Union, subject to you being vaccinated, which we're gonna wait for a while for that one.
Yeah. Back on the Emirates story, I heard a rumor, and I certainly hope it is true, that they are starting to look at recall some of their crew for the A380 fleet that they let go. So certainly a bit of positive news, and I really do hope for those guys that were affected by that at Emirates, that there is a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for them in that.
Yeah, that will be a big thing. A lot of South Africans, of course, on that aircraft that will hopefully get their jobs back. So very, very good news. Talking about Emirates, obviously A380s, they fly. Someone else who flies the A380s, Qantas. Good news. They're looking at bringing all those 380s out of the Mojave Desert where they've been stored. They should go back into service. 3 to 6 months to get them activated. Of course, don't forget, Qantas spent a huge amount of money on those 380s. They've got the updated cabins, particularly in the first and business class, I think they did. I think 6 of the 12 aircraft have those updated first class cabins. So they have spent the money, but their CEO reckons, no, they're going to be back into service. So good news for the A380. Should still see them flying around for a while yet.
What I'm liking about the CEO of Qantas is he's now starting to speak to government and say, it's enough now. We need to start flying. Even though government is saying 2023 or 2022, whatever it is, he's starting to say, no, we need to get back into the air. So, to have him step up, who's been very quiet for the last 12 plus months, is a good sign and a positive sign. So hopefully that those air travel bubbles will start extending to other regions in the world, which would be great. I mean, and if there is the vaccine rollout and it does work and it is effective, why not? What's the problem?
I'm quite optimistic about the vaccine rollout, to be honest. You can't but be optimistic and think, but hang on, if the vast majority of people have had the vaccine, and I'm talking about people that would travel, have had the vaccine, then surely that demand will increase quite rapidly. You almost wonder if the airlines are going to be able to cope with that initial surge after things normalize. Right now, we're still dealing with, third waves and strains and things like that. But one hopes that with the vaccine rollout, that normalizes pretty quickly, and we may be in for a very sharp recovery. Who knows? Right now, we're not there. We're certainly not even close to that in South Africa. But here's being optimistic.
Yeah, we can only really hope that is the case. Get it done, and let's hope for a speedy recovery, because not only do our airlines need it, but our charter companies, our tourism and travel.
What's happening on the charter side, Ryan? I mean, obviously,
look, it's actually, from what I can pick up, it's definitely really starting to pick up. Things are gaining a bit of momentum, particularly now that the guys from the States are allowed to travel back into South Africa. So, a lot of American tourists on their way in. It certainly looks like Unique Air are gearing up for a busy couple of months from about June onwards. So, definitely looking a lot more positive on that side. Obviously, nowhere near the amount of travel that they used to see a year or two ago, but it, definitely a better outlook than it has been in the last 6 months. So,
Ryan, I've got some mates who have hunting lodges, not my idea of fun, but nevertheless, and they have been fully booked for at least the last month, and for the next 3 to 4 months they are fully booked every single weekend, 4 or 5 days. So the tourists are coming in, and it's not local guys, so it's foreigners coming in, and they're making use of the time. There's no doubt about it. So even if it's not something I'd want to do, it's great to have the tourists here to at least be visiting, and they're all flying in on charter companies, which is great.
Yeah, you mentioned the hunting. It's actually a massive part of the charter industry. Those guys spend big money to come out here and do that sport, and they end up chartering 90% of the time because they've got massive weapons and all that stuff to carry around, and huge ammo, literally and figuratively. So that's good to see that recovery.
That was a good one there, Kaz.
It even took you by surprise when it came out.
It's like laughing about that now. This will be the last show, hopefully, guys, touch wood. The next one back in the studio. So the last show done remotely. Of course, the live show will still be done like this, but that's a different sort of vibe. But man, I'm looking forward to getting back into the studio, particularly for this sort of news-based type of show, because there's a lot of stuff to go through. And I think we mentioned it last night. Some moron had a few negative things to say.
So can I jump in on that?
Yeah,
Can I jump in on that? Okay, before I get lambasted for the wrong information, it was the Virgin Australia CEO calling for the opening of the borders.
Yeah.
Please, sorry, rinky dink. Just I'm correcting myself up front.
Yeah, the rinky dink SAA manager. If you're listening, then click yourself off, please, because I'm not interested in your cuck. But anyway, look, it's not easy doing it this way. The type of show that we have relies on getting through quite a lot of content in a relatively short space of time. So before you look, you've gone through an hour and you haven't quite completed all the stuff you wanted to chat about. So obviously much easier in that environment when we're all together. So really looking forward to that next week. But let's carry on nonetheless. Let's actually jump to South Africa now, because a bit of news out of South Africa this week. Something I really like from Safair. They've launched these packaged holiday ideas, which I think is great. They've partnered with Tripco. They can book flights and accommodation through one single portal. So that's B&Bs, houses, hotels, lodges throughout South Africa. And that website, flysafairholidays.co.za. I'll leave that link in the show notes, actually. And yeah, quite cool. I went on there earlier, and yeah, one-stop shop, book your flight, book your accommodation, and off you go. So nice idea there from Safair. And obviously showing a little bit of initiative. So I think maybe your worthwhile time, Brett, we were chatting about this before we went on. I had a bit of a comment tonight. There's a new proposed startup airline in coming to South Africa, going to operate Sukhoi jets. So I just shot a message there and nothing nasty or untoward, just to say, listen, can we have a bit more information, please? Because a lot of people are getting their hopes up about this new airline, and but we've seen nothing. All we see is logos and stories, or logos and pictures of cabins, which we're not interested in. We want to see, is this a tangible opportunity or company going forward? And the response that I've just received now actually was, well, no one is going to give away ideas to competition. So, well, that's not really true, is it? I mean, it's not the ideas that you're giving away to competition. It's the ideas that you're trying to get your customers to buy into. So, yeah, don't really buy that. And I'd be cautious of getting too excited about, can I say it again, what looks like a rinky-dink operation.
Yeah, I want to weigh in. Yeah, sorry, no, go ahead.
Go for it. Go, Ron.
No, I was going to say I want to weigh in on this one because I mean, first of all, there's two things to this. If you look at the way Lyft came in last year and started up, they started up within about 3 or 4 months from announcing, listen, we're starting an airline. But they were quite clear about what they were doing, who they were, what aircraft they were going to operate. They put it out to the public, help us choose a logo. There was no worry about competition. Obviously, not much competition at that time of the year, but they did it with a bit of pizzazz and with style, and they're doing really, really well. The way these guys are doing it, and they're stirring up hopes with a lot of unemployed aviation crew out there, and people are seeing this coming through, and they don't quite know anything about it, but it's getting their hopes up about a possible job. That kind of irks me a bit. Don't do that. If you're going to start an airline, you're going to be serious about it, then come flat out and say, we are doing this, and this is when we are looking to take crew on, whatever the case may be. But don't try and hide behind smoke and mirrors, man. Do it properly. And that's my 5 cents.
So I think all three of us are, and a lot of other people out there are very happy to be wrong, to make a comment and for Clarence to come out and say, here it is, guys. It's live, real. This is what's happening. I'll happily, I'll take that on. No problem.
Eat that humble pie any day.
Any day, because that's going to mean jobs. It's going to be opportunities for technical aviation crew across the board. It's just going to make such a difference. Can't have too much competition. My question is, what can you do so differently with an airline that hasn't already been done? We have the top airlines around the world, and bar the fact that we don't have UFOs to fly people around, or we can't teleport to another country, you're going to use an aircraft. You are going to have scheduled flights. Are you going to do it via a Lyft concept with like an Uber, book at the last minute? What are you actually doing different? The Sukhoi is out there, not known very well.
No, I mean, it's not the right
Sukhoi only had sold 12 aircraft in 2019. How are you going to use a Sukhoi to fly from Joburg to Moscow? Impossible. You can do it. A couple of stops on the way. But if that's what the idea is, even the Embraer 195s, I mean, how are you going to take that thing to Moscow? So you can't do anything much different than what the top airlines in the country and the world have already done. So there's nothing really to hide, is there? Or is there something I'm missing here from a business perspective? I just can't see it.
No, I think we've said what we need to say there. Caution against, you see a bit of news out there. There's a new airline starting, and a lot of people tend to take that as gospel. That's what's happening. But it's not the case. We know how difficult it is to run an airline in South Africa or any country right now, and it doesn't happen with a lot of backing, a lot of support, and a lot of the right minds. You look at Lyft, as Ryan, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, they almost caught us by surprise, and we report on the news about how quickly they got going, because before we knew it, they were operational. In no fuss. Here's a couple of logos. You choose, right? You like that one, right? It's on the plane, and off they're flying. Fly Safair and the Comair, I mean, Kalula, they must be, I think, they incredibly tough competitors. Anyone that's going to jump in that market to compete with them. I'm not saying you're not hiding for nothing, because that wouldn't be true. But man, those are tough competitors to have. So no, nothing against the guys trying to start this, but I'd like a little bit more info before we get too excited about that. Let's jump across to Mango, a little bit in the spotlight, not directly, but OTA jumped on it today to say they're filing a submission to halt the SAA subsidiary bailouts. They're saying that money is being diverted illegally to the subsidiaries, and a bit of stuff written about there. Why have the subsidiaries been trading recklessly? Their parent company, SAA, was in business rescue. They carried on operating throughout the pandemic, and OTA criticizing them quite heavily, saying, but why were you operating? If things were this bad and the hole you've got yourself into so big, why were you operating? Again, no one's going to be happier if they do get the money and they do carry on, because that is more jobs in aviation. It's better for everyone. But certainly these aviation companies or subsidiaries, they're very much in the spotlight now. They haven't been for so long because they were minor compared to what was happening at SAA, but not the case anymore. So much bigger spotlight on Mango. I don't know if you guys have got any other gen on that, but mainly just the OTA news that I picked up.
Yeah, no, I haven't actually honestly come across much news on Mango this week, to be honest with you. Don't know about you, Brett.
I haven't picked up anything else, but the fact is that OTA is now stepping in and weighing in on this. Hopefully is that step that says, hold on, something we need to put focus on this, put a spotlight on it. At the same time, I don't want to see that happen, because let's get Mango going. Let's get SAA Technical going. Let's get Air Chefs going, because that means economy is moving, money is being generated, people are smiling and happy. But at the same time, it comes down to the usual GPE, ANC, government nonsense, playing games. And someone needs to call them out on it. And if it's OTA, it will always be OTA generally. Then it has to happen. Bring it on.
Yeah.
I certainly think that they would obviously start being more proactive to all of those subsidiaries if there was a definite change in the management schemes, and if there was a real move and a drive to show, okay, well, we are serious about making these airlines run properly, so we're going to put the right people in place and do the right things. Then maybe the tune will be different. But yeah, they're just as scared as the general public to see money being wasted. So yeah,
difficult one.
It goes.
SAA News, bulk of their BRP funding was spent on consultants. That was from Eyewitness News. Surprise, surprise there. The whole process cost 230 million rand. Two practitioners themselves pocketing between them 78 million. So a nice little bit of work to get the consultants to do the work there. Nonsense. Money could have been better used elsewhere. But anyway, yeah. What do we expect? 84 of their.
I don't even want to talk about that one.
Yeah.
That is
No,
an unpleasant sexual act that they've committed.
Yeah.
Nicely
It reminds
put.
me of the first episode of Black Mirror. I don't know if you guys have seen
Yes,
if you've watched Black Mirror. Yeah.
Some twisted
If you want to be
shit there.
horrified, then go watch episode 1, series 1 of Black Mirror.
You'll be mentally scarred for life.
Yeah. Staying with our flag carrier. 84 SAA contracts and 44 of its aircraft leases involving millions of dollars are being investigated by South Africa's Special Investigation Unit for Corruption and Fraud. There was an interview on SABC, I think Morning Live, they call it. I'll put the interview in the show notes as well. SAA CEO was being interviewed on Morning Live.
The new CEO.
Yeah, the new CEO.
Guy. All right.
And the SABC lady doing the interview, she was holding back like you cannot believe. I thought she was excellent. The way she actually held it together, because I wouldn't have been able to do it. She was asking sort of almost like she had been mandated to ask certain things but not cross the line. But she was asking them in such a way that the answers she was getting was not what she asked. So I'm not left in much hope with the current structure there. I mean, anyway, watch it for yourself. I don't want to annoy any mid-level management dude at Spurries right now over this weekend, but watch it for yourself. The SABC interviewer really gave it to him. I thought so. I thought it was really good. Had him on the ropes. They want to start up, but there's no date. There's no how they're going to start. They're talking about they got this big. Everything's fine except the arrangement with the pilots. Well, you kind of need the pilots to fly the thing in the first place. So it wouldn't be a bad idea to sort that out. And is that SAPA they're talking about, or they're talking about the existing pilots that they're going to employ? Also don't quite know. But anyway, quite a good interview and definitely worth a look. Staying in South Africa, tourism-wise, British and Irish lines, obviously a big thing. I'm sure Unique Airline would have been flying flat out during this period with the British and Irish lines tour. But all those games right now plan to be behind closed doors, and no tours, obviously, from the UK to South Africa. So the plan is no crowds in the stadiums. That's a huge shame, a huge loss for South African tourism there. That's a shocker. But what do you expect? I think we're done with South Africa. Anything else to say?
Don't think there is, I think we've covered it all.
A correction on last week. We spoke about Nigeria Air, and not a correction. Basically, a little bit more information that was made available. Government standing up to say this is Nigeria's proposed flag carrier. Government will only hold 5% of the shares, but that doesn't mean they only want 5% of the control. Seems like they still want the control of the company without putting any of the bucks in. So it doesn't look like a brilliant venture for any investor who's going to pump money in, knowing that they're not going to be in control of that actual money. So to me, that seems like a bit of a harebrained scheme there. And one wonders where they will get that equity from other than the existing government circles that are already in existence.
Yeah, typical African sort of mentality and problem.
Well, it's more of a government mentality problem when you're taking a minor shareholding in a business or an industry you have absolutely no idea how to run, and then you still want to have majority control of that. My question is, which corporate or private investor actually buys into that nonsense? I mean,
Well,
It's a
I don't think they
guaranteed way
will.
of losing your money.
That's why it's a non-starter if they're going to carry on with that sort of plan. Anyway, a lot of speculation about it. When you read it, it depends which news article you read. How much light is shone on it, but that's not going to work if there's going to be government control without government money and backing. Staying in Africa, in Namibia, sorting out their deal with those 330s that went back to the lessors. I think that's being sorted out. $176 million was, of course, owed to them. No real signs of Air Namibia starting up shop again. Doubt that's going to happen. Kenya's government suspended flights to and from Somalia for 90 days. That was issued as a NOTAM, so a bit of fighting going on there. Suspension of flights with the exemption of humanitarian and medivacs from Kenya to Somalia. I just wish right now is now the time to be fighting with each other and stop flying into places? I don't think so. It would be nice to see a little bit more working together and collaboration. Maybe that's what we can jump on next. A big thing last night that we spoke about, guys, on Bryan Air Live, it gave me a hell of a nice feeling last night. This morning, actually, when I started getting all the messages through, because the idea is here that the aviation personnel around, particularly here, let's just take South Africa right now. There's a real opportunity for all of us to really work together. Mike Mason was on the show last night. He owns a farm to fridge there in Belito. If you're going to buy any meat, why don't we buy it from Mike? And if if we can do that, and we can do it with everyone involved in the industry, man, I think it would help a lot of people. There's a lot of networks out there that are built for that. I've been pushing it quite hard the past few weeks. Go Aviate. It's a central source for aviation professionals, and we need that central source to be able to do this. Craig Wood from Aviation 4SA, he posts his weekly newsletter that goes out. It's a very popular newsletter. A lot of people see it. And I know Craig is willing to put any aviation, even any aviator's business onto that newsletter for support and a bit of exposure. Get hold of Craig. He'll more than happily put your business on there. So all these little things help. We're happy to push stuff out on the podcast, provided it's something that is tangible and real, and we happy to promote. So we got to work together. We really have to work together. It would be nice if we could show on this level we're working together well. What happens on the governmental levels and in the upper echelons there of the expensive officers, what they do, that's up to them. But from our side, on a personnel point of view, I think we can play our part.
Yeah, it was really cool last night on the live show to see all the comments coming through. People asking where can they get in touch with Mike and get hold of his product. And when we started talking about the collaboration, people were really, really keen to jump in. Right? So that it's out there. People are keen to support each other and motivate each other, and just work together and collaborate. And it's something we've been speaking about in all the time that we've been doing the podcast, is supporting aviation, supporting your fellow aviators, and just staying positive. And the collaboration thing is something that we've been talking about a long time, and I think it's starting to gain momentum. So we need to really, really push that.
It's the crux of any business and any community, and that's what we need to be aware of. Mike made such an interesting comment, and I just loved it. He's said he's had some real strong supporters that to this day have not bought one bit of product from him, but every single time he puts a post on LinkedIn or something out on Facebook, they share it with as many people as possible. So sometimes it's not all about just buying something. It's support from a simple thing. You're on LinkedIn, you're on Facebook, you see something, you say, oh man, let's just share this. Let everyone that I know hear about this business, because you never know where that turn comes, where you wake up one morning and you think, I wonder what today is going to bring for me. And then suddenly something comes out of the blue, and it's never out of the blue. There's always been background work, and someone's pushed something, someone's spoken around something, and the next minute you've got a break. So, support doesn't have to be financial all the time.
Yeah, that's a brilliant point. It doesn't. Yeah. A share and a like goes a hell of a long way. Speaking of shares and likes, share and like the podcast, please. Give us a subscribe. It'll go a long way. A review on Apple Podcasts goes a long way as well. We're going to keep it relatively, it's already 40 odd minutes, so we'll start winding up shortly. Bryan Air Live, of course, Tuesday, 7 o'clock, South African time. It's turned into a cool part of our week. I know we look forward to it. It's a high energy hour. We have a chat, we have a whiskey, and we communicate and collaborate with whoever we're chatting with that particular week. This week, Ian Findlay, my ex-boss from SA Express, will be on the show. Really looking forward to that. It'll be my first interview of Ian. He's interviewed me a couple of times. One for a job at SA Express in 2010, and another one for a command upgrade or a fleet captain position not so long ago. So it'll be nice to get to throw Ian a couple of questions on Tuesday as well. Looking forward to that. And that's Tuesday, 7 p.m. Of course, as I said, next week we'll be hopefully, touch wood, back in the studio. So this will be the last of the sort of remote podcast we do for the Friday show. But as always, I'd like to thank you all for the support and all the comments and likes and emails this week. Last week, the support that we get from the guys in Hong Kong is fantastic. I cannot explain how many nice emails I get from all the guys in Hong Kong. Colin Jenkinson, thanks for your email. And Angie McIntosh, details in the show notes. If you want to chat to someone that's got a background on the sort of dealing with stress, dealing with anxiety, she's the person to talk to. She's offered her time to aviators that need a bit of help, a bit of guidance, and a bit of coaching. And her details are in the show notes. A lovely offer. Don't have to pay. It's free. And you get to chat with someone that actually knows what they're talking about. So please take her up on that offer. And guys, I've enjoyed the remote stuff like this, but can't wait for next week back in the studio. And hope everyone has a lovely weekend. And
back in the studio, maybe a little bit blurry-eyed, right, Bryan?
Yeah, I will be a bit blurry-eyed. Not because of a hangover, but because of something else. Thanks for everything, everyone. And until next week, we'll say cheers for now.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.